Good morning, everybody. Would you please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Are we gonna, I guess this is a board meeting, isn't it?
Work session.
Work session.
Maybe if I had the right agenda in front of me. Okay.
You got it?
Yes. All right, we are in a work session. It's a little more casual. We might not wear a tie. Yeah,
I never wear a tie.
nobody's wearing a tie.
I don't have my tie on either, so sorry.
Thank you for making me fit in. We're going to talk about West Creek, the 6-month recap of that program.
That is correct, sir. I appreciate it. Good morning, Board Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. It's good to see you all today. Heather Goodwin, Director of Health and Human Services for Carver County, and just want to give you, as Board Chair alluded to, a recap of the West Creek housing supportive housing site that recently opened late last year, and we are at the 6 months. I do want to just start by offering some thanks to my Health and Human Services team, specifically my financial assistance team. Jennifer Keelis is in the back of the room. She's our manager of our income support area, and her team has several staff who are processing the paperwork and documents that provide the housing support, which is essentially the rent, all or part of the rent for the young adults who live in this facility. And also want to thank my workforce development team, also under Jennifer, who we've had counselors and we've had workforce staff working with these young adults since they've moved into the facility to gain employment, education, training, to be able to become productive, independent citizens and be able to eventually move on and be able to contribute to our community in a way that they move themselves away from the dependence or need of our services. And then lastly, I think all of you know Jen Romero in the room. She's my supervisor of our housing supports area. Many thanks to her and her team for the ongoing support and collaboration. Without Jen and her team, we probably wouldn't be standing here today. Many thanks to, again, my Health and Human Services team, who've worked closely with many of the partners that we'll talk about today during the presentation, that all came together to be able to bring this project to fruition and get that opened. And most importantly, I want to talk about some successes today. We've had our first 6 months of this project, but want to introduce Susie Meisel. She's in the room. Good. You can come on up, Susie. I want to introduce Susie Meisel. She is the Director of Housing and Emergency Services for CAP. CAP has been amazing and a wonderful partner for this project. They are doing everything from case management to front desk work, working in collaboration and closely with many of the partners that have all brought this to fruition. So I want to turn it over to Susie. She can kind of walk us through the bulk of the presentation today. And then Jen, Susie and I are here if you have questions at the end. And I'll just give Susie a minute. If you do this, you'll be able to see that you can advance the slides. I'll turn it over. Thanks, Susie. Thank you.
Meisel, right?
Meisel, yes. Thank you. All right, thank you, Commissioners, for giving me the opportunity to speak about West Creek. All right, sorry. All right, it is a 19-unit building that serves youth 18 to 29 years old who have experienced homelessness. CAP Agency is the service provider. We're providing case management as well as front desk support. Premier is the property management company, and they have several other properties in their portfolio. We have 18 units that are currently occupied. We also have one of those as a live-in. CAP Agency supervises the live-in position. So far, we've housed 19 different individuals. Of those, 9 have been from Carver County. The referral process comes through coordinated entry. That's an assessment process where a person who's experiencing homelessness comes to a coordinated entry provider and completes an assessment. That assessment determines the length of their homelessness, how long they've been homeless, and then also barriers, disabilities, special needs that they may have, and puts them on a prioritization list. Then from that, we have an opening. We let the prioritization list know, and they send us referrals. Then we say, hey, West Creek is the housing opportunity for you. Would you like to come and look at it? They come look, they have a tour, they find out about the services that'll be provided there, and determine whether or not they would like to apply. Then they go through Premier's application process. Through that coordinated entry process, I just wanted Jen to speak just a little bit about how many youth we were able to contact and make connections with.
So
Good
just
morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So just really quickly wanted to highlight, this is a pretty big deal because our coordinated entry list has over 600 individuals on it between Scott, Carver, Anoka, Dakota, and Washington counties. And in the process of sending the referrals over to the West Creek project, all single youth had the opportunity to potentially move to this property from that entire list. There had to have been at least 40 individuals that were referred over that had the opportunity to go look at it and determine if this was the right place for them to live. By the time the project was maybe 3/4 of the way full, we had offered that opportunity to every single youth on the list, which means there were no more youth that hadn't been presented with an option of a place to live.
Jen, did you originally say 600 people were on the list?
There's over 600 individuals of varying ages, right? So when you take that whole list and you pare it down to just those who are eligible for this project, that are 18 to 29 years old, that are long-term homeless, that have a disabling condition, all of those individuals were offered this as an opportunity for them.
And how many was that number?
I would guess about 40.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a pretty big feat. It's very rare that a project comes along that completely ends homelessness for every youth on the list, basically. That's just unheard of. It doesn't happen. So it was a pretty big feat for our continuum of care that manages this list. So we were really excited and wanted to share that detail.
Mr., if I could, so the quick question would be, it was offered to most people, to all those people, but the majority turned it down?
Yeah, so if it was a Washington County individual, for example, that might have just been too far away from their supports. So they may have declined. Or somebody, what would be another example of somebody who maybe said no thank you?
I do think that the majority of the reasons for turning it down was just the location and their community resources in Anoka County or Washington.
Yeah, the people who lived the farthest away, who had support systems the farthest away, probably said no thank you. So,
Even though you have a support system, but you're homeless?
yes.
Okay.
Because even though they're homeless, a lot of them are
Couch hopping?
chronically couch hopping, and at least they have that system of support and the people that they can go from home to home to home. And as long as they're near the people who give them rides to work or the people who give them rides to school, it's hard to leave that far behind, even for a housing opportunity.
Understood, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So we moved 19 in, and we have one more on the way, and so then the project will be filled. Here is a picture of the studio unit. They are fully furnished. And on the right side, you can't see them, you will in the next slide. See, there's a love seat and a couch, and then they have the kitchenette. So there is a picture from a different angle. But I wanted to thank all the sponsors who made this project not only an apartment complex, but really homes for 19 who had not had homes before. So thank you to all of them. Then we have made quite a few partners with this project. Carver County Health and Human Services, the Chaska Library comes and furnishes this bookshelf with books that they can check out and read, and then brings new books in. Project Life Cycle brought 19 bikes for the youth and young adults. So if they did not have transportation, they have a bike now to get around. We have connected with SOAR advocates to help them with Social Security disabilities, Southwest Prime for transportation, the Career Force Center, and then also Chaska Police. Our biggest partner, I would say, and we're really grateful for this unique opportunity, is Bountiful Baskets. We have a food pantry located in West Creek, and they can come up and make their food choices. And there's a refrigerator that's got eggs and milk, meat in it, and so it's really easy for them to come up, get the things that they need. Bountiful Baskets comes and replenishes as we need, so it's been really a wonderful partnership. Then I wanted to talk about CAP agency's case management, and here are the elements of our case management. Our housing first approach means that the person comes into housing and then we address their barriers. This is a fundamental concept. It's based in evidence that shows people will have a greater success when maintaining housing if they can be themselves, feel safe and supported, and focus on their goals. Feeling safe and secure in housing serves as a platform from which they can attain goals. Client-centered or person-centered approach puts the youth and young adults in the driver's seat. They make their own goals, and the CAP agency just helps guide them. The 9 guiding principles to homeless youth work begins with the perspective that youth are on a journey. All of our interactions with the youth are filtered through this journey perspective. This means that we must be trauma-informed, non-judgmental, and work to reduce harm. By holding these principles, we can build a trusting relationship that allows us to focus on youth's strengths and opportunities for positive development. Through all of this, we approach youth as whole beings through a youth-focused collaborative system. We do all of this work by meeting with each resident weekly. We can meet them in their units or in our office on site. We conduct monthly inspections in the units to ensure safety and any needs, and then of course cleanliness. We work on budgets, and the budgets help them understand their income or their funding and personal needs, goals for the future. Our goals, as I was saying, are really driven by the youth and young adults. The family service coordinators from CAP agency focus on meeting with them regularly to review those. And then we use motivational interviewing to help guide them and keep them moving along because they're the drivers. And then the case management also provides an opportunity for us to talk about the here and now, what's happening, and then also dream about the future. We have had some challenges. The challenges have been finding the right staff for the our 24/7 model. We have a front desk that covers weekends, and just finding the right people to be in those positions. So we've had a little turnover already, and we're finding the right staff to fit those needs. We had one mutual lease termination that came when we had one resident that had some mental health needs that we were unable to address through West Creek Services. We worked collaboratively with others to figure out how to move him into a better position. And then the other challenge is that these youth and young adults are eligible for Social Security benefits, and it's been challenging trying to connect them through that process, but we're working through that. With the challenges, there's been successes. We have one a young lady who is paying full rent already. Half of the residents have gained employment. We've been connecting a lot of them to community resources, and they've had a lot of, they're beginning to feel a sense of community. This is a picture of over the holidays. They had several brunches, Thanksgiving meal, things like that. So they're making use of the community resource room and gathering and spending time together, getting to know each other. Last week, I actually worked at the front desk and I met a young man who told me that this is the first time he's had an opportunity to believe in himself. He's feeling truly blessed for this opportunity, and he has never had a home before that's been solid, and this is a wonderful place for him. So that was really fun having that conversation with him and getting to know him. Finally, I wanted to share that the CAP agency is now located in Carver County. Here is our new location on Second Street. The services that are available, somebody can come in and apply for energy assistance. They can apply for Head Start, and they can receive access to housing resources as well. Does anybody have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Uterman.
We always ask the question, are we housing people from outside our community? And I think we got a partial answer. Commissioner Fahey, myself, had a chance to see some of this presentation at the CDA meeting last week. And I think I know the answer, but can you tell me how we determine who's in there and how many people came or are attached to our community?
Yep, so 9 are actually ties or were originally from Carver County. With the homeless population, they're moving around a lot. So somebody may have been here at one point in Carver County and then moved away and now is returning. But 9 for sure would say, yes, I was a Carver County resident previously.
Yep. Sometimes I ask, who does this best in this space? And for all intents and purposes, this is on the end of the spectrum that's hard to house. This isn't just an able, capable body that's hitting a hard time. This is somebody that if we don't capture them now will cost a lot more over a lifetime. And so I remember a conversation I had with Bostrom many years ago is how does CAP have a greater presence in Carver County? They had a desire, we had a desire, and I think you're not only delivering that with this facility, but also the facility up around the corner from Patron. And so thank you for that. I also harp on the, our partnership with not-for-profit civic organizations, places of worship and the like, and we'll hear from another one after you guys. Takes a lot of the burden, and you know as well as everybody in this room that we're facing a lot of potential burden coming from the state to fund some of these things. And so I think this is the gold standard of, and we can't get out of a conversation about West Creek without talking about Bob and Dave. And so I'm sure they're either watching or will watch, but the perseverance and the vision and taking a lot of darts for, we don't want that in our backyard. Or they're going to be making a lot of money on this stuff. At the end of the day, they delivered a project faster than what government could do alone. And if you look at all the partnerships, I think that's a look at what the gold standard is. Also think that we should probably set goals in the future for, wouldn't it be great if we could invest in a project? And I know there's some county money in this one too. I know many of the people in this room were at the groundbreaking and the ribbon cutting. But if our goal was to have maybe 80% of the people from our county, we don't really put a line in the sand, and I know there's a lot of complexities, but the thought of somebody from Washington County coming into a community that they don't know, and the words that you said, essentially for that demographic, we solved homelessness by this project, and what Bob and Dave have been able to do is so important. My last question is this, is what's the next step? I know for the better part of a couple decades, not just our community, but other communities, we don't have the next step of home ownership for somebody that can't afford a $600,000 starter home in Carver County. And I know the next step for folks living here isn't to buy a $600,000 house. And I know there's not readily available stock in that $200,000 to $350,000 based on wage. What is, when these folks graduate from this program, or the individual that's now paying rent that could probably afford to be in a different facility when the timing is right. What is the next step for the individuals that are here to go on to the next rung of potential independence?
Yes. So I think many will move on to becoming renters at other properties. But I did speak with the CDA maybe 2 weeks ago regarding their housing trust projects and having some affordable housing so that somebody can go into that home ownership through the housing trust programs.
So like if somebody's here and the one that's paying full rent, is that $1,400 a month?
1,000.
1,000? So then the next step might be 12, 13, 1,400, of
Yep.
which there's not a lot. There's a glut of opportunities at $2,000 a month. And to get in a first-time home, you're looking at 2,500 on the low end if you have a down payment, and more like $3,000 or $4,000 to have something that's kind of middle of the road. So it's helpful to hear that.
Yep.
Last thing, I guess, last thing, and maybe this is a question for somebody else in the room, but we can't restrict somebody that's from outside of our community coming in, but maybe there's some creative things we can do. I know we've got a number of projects that are coming online, given the boldness of the board, some ARPA dollars, they're coming out of the ground, particularly what's in Carver. I see a problem of us releasing 60 or 80 units at a time. And when you release them all at the same time, it opens itself up to solving the problems of people from other counties, if you will. Is there a path for us to release a couple units a week or a month, maybe 10 at max on a monthly basis, versus, hey, we're open, we're going to try and fill it with all the supports and people that we have locally, but we're opening ourselves up in some cases, 70, 80% of the people housed in these areas. It's, as we heard from you, it's not in their best interest to be housed in an area where they don't have social supports. But in essence, if we build it, they will come. I'm an Iowa kid, so I like to throw that out there. Heather, I know you are too. Is there a way that we can maybe time release some of these so we actually serve the real need versus shift the need to our county? Maybe that's more for Jen.
So as much as I would love to be able to answer that, I think honestly, if you're thinking about some projects that are coming open, like Carver Place, for example, the Carver County CDA, I'm sure, has a very specific plan as to how they open projects like that. They have to follow fair housing laws. They have an interest
Yep.
list already established. And so I believe they go off of their interest list for the general public openings, but they will have at least 8 homeless units at Carver Place. And those units will be filled through coordinated entry. I apologize because I might be getting some of my projects mixed up because some of the projects are going through another homeless source. But I believe that one is coming through coordinated entry, with you guys as the provider, right? Okay. So those units, as they become available, those 8, you guys generally take them in batches as well. So when a project has 8 units, it's very likely most, if not all of those, will be people who have a tie to Carver County. When you're filling 19 very specific youth openings that have long-term homeless and disability requirements, that takes the list and brings it down to this big, right, of people who would be eligible. But when you're filling 8 units, and I believe those are a combination of family and singles for that project, you've got a much bigger pool. And we could consider a lot of the households who are already on the list for Carver County's portion that say Carver County is their residency.
Yep.
Our priority list managers do go in order on the entire list, the whole list, not worrying about where people are from. But we have found that when projects are a little bit further out of the cities, the best fits are people who are from here. They're the ones who are really quick to say yes, they're really excited about it, they can get there quickly to view it, and they're the ones who end up going through the whole process and getting accepted. It's not to say that someone from Dakota, Washington, or Anoka won't move into the unit because they would have an opportunity as well, but in the end, majority do end up being from here.
Great. Thanks for what you do. Yep.
Commissioner Henderson.
All right. First of all, Heather, Jen, Susie, thank you so much for what you do. I am a proud member of the CAP board, and so I have seen some of those challenges and have only heard good things. So thank you, Susie, for your partnership. I do, first of all, it's hard to believe it's already been 6 months. So that's crazy. And I do think that this is a great example of not just community partnership, but we also had a number of businesses be involved in this as well. So here's what I heard is, so correct me if I'm wrong. What I heard is because of this project, we have met the needs of the youth who are homeless in this community. Is that what I heard?
The only correction I would make, Commissioner, is that it's young adults, 18 to 29.
Yes.
I just want to clarify for even the public watching, you know, a lot of times we use the word youth and that's someone under 18. It's really kind of, yes, but I would say correct in your statement that for young adults across our coordinated entry counties, which is the group that Jen mentioned, we have met the need. I don't know if you have additional comments.
Yeah, I just want to note that we met the need as of the day the last person moved in.
Correct.
There will
Correct.
always be new people who come to the surface who are seeking assistance.
Yes.
But yes.
Okay, so I appreciate that, because it does beg the question, you know, if we've met the need at this moment in time, you know, is there more need? And I'm assuming that you're kind of keeping track of that as well.
I can also just add that several of them have had guests who are experiencing homelessness, and so then we've been able to assess them and try to match them to services that would be best for them. So sometimes when they have a home, then it uncovers more. Like we'll find out more, and so maybe we'll get a few more on the list now because of this property. So it is actually helpful to find more homeless.
Yes, excellent. And then there's been a theme that I have heard, not in the last number of months, certainly since I've taken on this job, but prior to that, and that is staffing challenges. So I'm assuming since there are staffing challenges and that you've had some openings, how are you meeting the needs with those challenges? I'd just like to hear some of those kind of creative solutions that I know that you have been coming up with.
Well, like one day I was there. So and it brings me back to the work that I did prior to coming to CAP agency, being a youth worker. But so we've just all kind of just shared and you know, spread ourselves out so that we can cover as many of the shifts as possible, and then you know, doing a really good, thorough process of hiring the next people.
Excellent. All right, well, and again, just thank you. This is such an exciting project and such a beacon of so many private-public partnerships and just the amount of lives that are going to be changed. So thank you for sharing the challenges and also those wins, building a community. And I foresee lifelong connections with these individuals, and that's a big deal, because that's how people survive and thrive. So thank you again for your work, and thank you for so many people in the room who have also been involved as well.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Fate.
Susie, thank you. We had talked about this at our CDA meeting last week, and Bob and Dave were there and presented it. And the CDA with Allison and her staff are very supportive and very thankful for what you do and to be a partner in this project. All the requirements have been met by the state. There's currently 2 on the waiting list, correct? Or has the waiting list grown?
For new referrals into, you might be about right with 2, but I'd have to look today. There's probably a couple more new ones since the last time I checked.
Good. And then if the board can remember, this was a use of the ARPA funds, and there's no debt on the building currently, so that's another good thing. One of the questions that came up in the CDA meeting was the community pushback. If some of us can remember, there was the not in my backyard syndrome that took place, and unfortunately that happens quite a bit, and none of that came to fruition. And now the community has been so supportive, and that's just an example of the project and what we're doing and what we're accomplishing at the end of the day. So great job.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll just make one quick comment to that. I mean, I give CAP a lot of credit, and I don't know how I can even say how much credit I want to give them. In these kinds of situations, things can go bad quickly, as you know. And I think it speaks to, I mean, certainly Bob and Dave and the team and the private, public partnership that helped build this building. It's a beautiful building. It's landscaped beautifully. It looks nice when you drive by. I mean, I think it's been well maintained. I mean, it's only been 6 months, but when I drive by, it's always looks very nice. It's not as if there's even, there's cars that are, broken down in the parking lot, any of those kind of things. But I give credit to CAP because the fact that they have a live-in person there, and I know he gets his door knocked on a lot. So credit to the person who stays living there to provide the support, but the support from CAP, that case management piece that is giving the kinds of support folks need to have their needs met also helps to maintain that safe environment where folks aren't drinking, partying, doing things that would cause disruption to neighbors. So much credit, I think, to the services provided there that also have made these new young adults good neighbors. So just want to highlight that.
Commissioner Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the clarification, but as an old guy, I think 18 to 29 are youth.
Me too.
I know you didn't touch on it, it's probably in the goals, but I assume that there's chemical help available, counseling somewhere? There is, all right.
Yes. They, when we meet with them and do assessments and figure out what their needs are, if that is something that they're interested in, or if that is something that is causing them challenges, then we help direct them to chemical help.
Wonderful. And this is a great presentation, great success story. My thought is that I see Mr. Norby in the audience today, and I was just wondering, did they have a chance to have volunteer opportunities? Because I think most of the time you mentioned the one individual who never had any experience, a positive experience. If they could, a volunteer opportunity with Mr. Norby comes to mind because he's here, building a bed or something like that and actually see an accomplishment and helping out, I think would help out immensely for someone like that. Just a thought.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I would volunteer to ride on his Harley Davidson. Beautiful bike that I envy it.
So with that, Board Chair, I'll close. I just want to highlight that there is a one-pager, hopefully in your packets. If not, I can certainly email that to you. Just want to give credit to CAP as well for working with us on putting that together. It's a bit of a snapshot in time, but does give that kind of 6-month recap. Was kind of created around February 1st, right at the 6-month mark. We did that so that you all as commissioners and others can have that to share with constituents or other entities who might be interested in just having a high-level overview of the first 6 months of the project. So if you want that emailed or need that from me, let me know. And with that, I will go ahead and close unless there's, go ahead, Board Chair, please.
Well, first of all, I think we play a little inside ball, and I know that people have been using the names Dave and Bob in here, and I'm glad you put that list of supporters up. Tim Earhart up in Chanhassen, a strong, quiet contributor to our community all the time. But Bob being former Mayor Bob Ripke, and Dave being former county or city administrator, I almost gave him a raise. Dave Picorni,
Yes.
who we've all known for many, many years.
Yes,
And
valuable.
they dare to dream stuff. And so a good bunch. But by the way, I think if you've been in elective office for a while, the not in my backyard, I always much more rather enjoyed the banana, which is build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. And I learned that as a city council member. I now live across the street from Bluff Creek Elementary when the neighborhood became very angry that an elementary school would be there, to which Workman coined, if I told you I was going to build the gates of heaven across the street from you, you might complain about the noise and the dust and the lighting, because it'd be a busy place, hopefully. But can I just quickly focus on what's maybe missing in my mind if I'm going to be a resident there? It sounds like work is a pillar of this concept, that we encourage you to work. Senator Norm Coleman always said, if you want to cure poverty, get a job. If you want to cure homelessness, get a job. Crime, get a job. I'm assuming that's a big part of this. But how would I, if I don't have a job and I am moving in here and maybe I do have a job, do I want to leave here? Is it normal? Can we predict what these folks want to do in the future about moving on to something that Commissioner Uterman talks about, the next step level housing? Is that something that's talked about? How long can I live here?
But we haven't set a time limit, but that is an integral part of the case management and case planning that CAP, and Susie, you can probably speak to it better than I can, but that CAP is doing with those young adults. I mean, I think right from day one, the message is you can't live here forever. It's not transitional housing per se, but this is really a stepping stone in your journey. And it's really around how do we set you up for that next step? And a lot of that is around building, and it might be, okay, first we need to address maybe, as Commissioner Lynch pointed out, some of the substance use issues. It might be first, then we need to work on some of the mental health challenges. But how do you continue to work and have those stepping stones where you get to a point where you can be, either volunteering, to your point with Al with Love Inc., or to find a part-time job and then eventually a full-time job. And how do you work folks through the steps so eventually they are gainfully employed, can have the kind of, revenue and income that Commissioner Uterman talked about that it would take to live in a market rate apartment or possibly a CDA unit. Then maybe that's a stepping stone in between to move. So I do think there's constant conversation around forward progress and what are all the pieces that you need to work on to get there. And is it a fast process? For some it might be, others it might be 2 or 3 years. So I don't know if you had more to add on that, Susie.
I don't really, but I do think that it is a journey, and each person is different, and so it's meeting them where they're at and figuring out, is it volunteering first? Is it working on goals that is around hygiene first, and just figuring out how to wake up every morning and set your alarm clock and do those kinds of independent things? Or are we doing interview classes and teaching them how to write resumes, and then, having employment, and then employment that actually will sustain them somewhere? So, I mean, it's everybody's individual.
I think it's the value, though, of not having a project like this where folks just live there and we pay the rent and, excuse me, give them the funding to live there. It's really why you have to wrap in that kind of wraparound project of workforce services, housing supports, all of those pieces, case management, because it does. I mean, every week, I know when your staff are in there meeting with folks, it's about how do we keep moving forward and working on goals so we get you where you want to be, wherever that is, when you, by your time you're 30, I mean, those kinds of things. How do you set those kind of 5 and 10 year goals for folks?
Well, good. Thank you so much, and look forward to the 12-month update.
Yes.
And but
get there.
thanks for all you do.
I'll share one quick thing, and it's not my news to share necessarily, but you brought up Bob and Dave. I do know that they aren't wasting any time, of course, and maybe Commissioner Fahey, you heard this at the CDA meeting. They don't sit on their laurels. They're already starting a project with New Beginnings, which is another organization we work with that works with young pregnant women or teenagers that are pregnant, and so they're working on expanding their footprint and adding more units. So to Commissioner Uterman's comment, how do you add 1 or 2 units? It's by partnering with entities that already exist, I think, and expanding their presence in the community. And so I won't share details because it's not mine to share, but they are hard at work already on the next project. So, and lastly, I'll share Jen Romero, who's standing behind me, and Richard Scott, who couldn't be here today, are presenting this Thursday morning to the Chaska Rotary, a similar presentation to this. So just wanted to throw that out there in case there's public listening that want to and might be at the Rotary meeting to hear the same presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to point out that if you lived across from the gates of heaven, all those pearls would make it impossible to sleep at night.
The what?
The pearls, the pearly gates.
Oh,
The noise from the gates playing?
We'll always find something to complain about.
who'll be the
Really
next?
good.
I was able to go to church service on Sunday with Commissioner Anderson. We didn't know we were going to see each other over there. My neighbor invited me, Lawrence, 83-year-old neighbor, and so that was a great surprise over the weekend.
Yes, it was.
Bob and Dave, they're not going to be around forever, and I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but maybe Tom and Dave,
Do it.
you can carry on the
I
band.
thought we already did it. I've done it.
There's more to do, Dave. All right, we are going to talk about Love Inc. and all the good things they do.
Good morning. Kate Probert Fernandez. I'm a Deputy Director for Health and Human Services. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to share an impact report that Love Inc. or L. Norby will be talked about. I just want to remind the board that we appreciate the one-time investment that we made a couple years ago through pandemic recovery dollars that really focused on helping community to revitalize and invest into keeping community safe and making sure that community members have transportation to connect them to jobs or to the wellness activities that can sustain their wellness as they move forward with their lives. So with that, I am going to turn presentation over to Al Norby, who has board members and our COP program partner in the audience. So he'll introduce them as we doing this impact report presentation. So thank you. Al.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, board. What a great opportunity to come and share some really exciting numbers. And behind all these numbers, of course, are real people and real stories. And so just grateful to have the reasons why we're here this morning. A couple people I want you to be aware of. Jenny Erickson is our helpline coordinator. She runs our first voices of help and hope for people who call in, including the vetting process for the Craig program. Mark Menzimmer is the owner of Christian Brothers Automotive. This was our partner in the car repair program. So we're going to hear from these guys too here in a minute. But in regards to the diaper and baby wipes, I want to make sure we include the baby wipes because that's they kind of go hand in hand, no pun. But besides supplying young moms with diapers, we also provide baby wipes. So you could go ahead and, is there an, do I just advance here? Thanks. Okay, thanks. Just a reminder of kind of who we are at the core is that we want to see lives and communities transformed. There's something unique that's happening in Carver County with over 30 churches, 11 denominations, with one purpose is to show compassion to our neighbors who are hurting. This doesn't happen everywhere. It doesn't, the Lutherans and the Catholics and the Baptists and the Presbyterians have got a history of not playing well in the sandbox, and it's happening here. And you talk about Bob Rubke, and he's told stories of, because I think he was a St. John's kid, marries a Guardian Angels gal, and that was a little scandalous back in the day. But times have changed, and it's different. And when churches, of all things, seek to be a light and a pillar in the community, actually can lock arms and do good work together. So,
Al,
yeah.
We're on a religious kick here today, but we're all going to the same place when we die at the gates of heaven across the street from me.
Right.
But the Catholics have 15 minutes less processing. So
That's fair. That's fair. I
'cause
hope
they suffer.
I hope the lobby's in good shape. As you guys know, our mission is to unite the faith community, to mobilize them, and to pool our compassion and resources so that we can be efficient and not be redundant and wasteful with resources, to be good stewards. And so I'm hoping that you feel the same way we do about this reporting, because that's what's happened, is great, we believe, great use of funds from the county. So thank you. Here's some things you might want to know. This is for diapers and baby wipes. Our first invoice was back in '23. I don't know how much you want me to just scroll through these bullet points. Do you want me to verbalize all of them? You can see them in front of you.
Yes. Tell us a story.
Yes, tell us a story. Well, we've got some stories, but what is interesting in those numbers that tell a story, you can see the shift in the increase of diapers here in Q3 and 4 of '24 from previous. So something happened. We're not sure exactly what, other than the obvious. We've got more kiddos that have come into this world, and so we've seen an uptick in the needs for diapers. You can see that in the numbers there. Another piece of information I want to draw your attention to, Vice Chair Lynch, you talked about what we define youth as, and I'm starting to feel the same way. And now we've got these, I'm now a grandfather. I have a 9-month-old grandson. A little earlier than we all hoped for, but here we are. We've got a little one in the family that, of course, you do whatever it takes. But at $3 a diaper, at 6 to 12 changes a day, that can really add up for a young person, especially if they don't have dual income or anything like that. So what we're doing here does make an impact, and you can see approximately $120. This is just math, but it affords a young mom margin to purchase formula, medicine, baby hygiene products, or other needs to run her household. One thing that people don't realize, especially with our friends at Bountiful Baskets who do amazing work, and I loved seeing the pantry that's inside West Creek. It was very clean. This looked really great. But there are some families and kiddos that have allergies or other things that the food shelf may not have on their shelves for them. So they have to go purchase them. And so this is one way to help free up some funds to take care of a colicky baby maybe, or other things that the baby needs that they can't get from other sources of help. So the trajectory, according to those numbers, if that 86 average units continues, is the grant that we had for the diapers and wipes, which I think was 100,000, would be depleted early in 2026. I also have Kathleen here. She's our mission engagement. She helps us with supply and demand of all of our GAP ministries, and a couple board members here as well. Bob and Paul, thank you for being here. Kathleen, do you want to speak to any of the young moms? There's two things that are happening now. One, come on, it's okay. I know. Kathleen, like many people, has a fear of public speaking, so I just checked that box for her this morning. But as well, if it's okay to share, Kathleen is a former Loving client and now a staff person. So you talk about the relationship between receiving help and then giving help with volunteering back or giving back in that sort of way. Life doesn't have to stay stuck, and our hope is to see people unstuck and be independent, and that's what these programs are intended for. And so anyway, Kathleen, you want to speak to the diapers?
One thing I did want to mention was that we brought on a new diaper ministry in the Western Carver County side of the Carver County, which would also be one of the reasons why our numbers have started to go up, because we are getting more reach into the community that we didn't have before. Yeah, don't like being on the spot, but anyway.
Is there any specific questions from the board that we could address? That's helpful because our reach is growing. And so therefore, it's not just Eastern Carver County families. It's families that are all over the county.
Yeah, we've reached into Waconia, and we are also looking to partner with Norwood Young America to extend reach further into Norwood Young America and out into our rural part of the county.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Commissioner Erdogan.
I think sometimes we're heavy on empathy because that's what you do. right? And I think sometimes we don't say it, but we're trying to listen for what's the ROI. And sometimes the ROI is we saved you $120. Great, we took a burden off of yours. But sometimes the story is I came and talked to Al based on a community reference. And that might have been the difference between making the mortgage that month, which meant they didn't go into default, which meant that they didn't. And I know that I went to one of the Love Inc. events where you spoke and you have those stories. If there's something that comes to mind of somebody that you helped that could have gone down this path, and I think the same conversation is true for what we talked about housing. Mark, I'm looking at you when it comes to people that have come into the care, when it comes to the GAP ministry of car and car repair. But if you could just give us a story that had we not, Love Inc. not been there, had we not partnered with you, what might have the outcome been?
Well, seeing as I am a single mother and a lot of our clients are also in that unexpected single mother boat, not something you plan for, and it comes with a lot of expenses that you don't foresee. For example, we had one of our mothers come in to one of our school drives, and she came in as like everyone thinks that the clients that we help are people who don't have jobs, are all very low income. And the reality is that a lot of our clients are school workers, police officer families, are people who are doing real work, but the income doesn't match the expenses. But this particular lady who came in did work for the school as an art teacher, recently found herself as a single mother, and I think it was her mother that led her to Love Inc. But when she came for the school supplies and she filled up the backpacks for her children, she was just kind of wandering around and not leaving, just kind of didn't know what to do next. And I came up to her, and her thing was she wanted to know how she could do this next year. How can I help next year? Because she said the feeling she had almost was like she was stealing, because this is stuff that she was not going to be able to afford on her own had she not had us there. And a lot of those major expenses like school and Christmas and Thanksgiving that we all take for granted are major expenses for people that can put them underwater and that lead to the rent not being paid. So having not only those kind of bigger expenses taken care of, but adding up all of those little tiny things like your diapers and your shampoos and cleaning supplies, that is a big chunk. Just go home and find out what you use in a month and calculate that. And you're looking at a couple $100 that is then able to go for unperceived medical expenses, a higher utility bill than you thought you were going to get this month, or helping to go towards your back rent, or extracurricular activities for your kids, because nobody wants their kids being the person who has to stay home.
Thank you.
I don't know if I have anything else to update with the diaper and baby wipes before we move on to the car repair, unless there's other questions. Great job. Okay. So the car repair assistant grant, or otherwise known as CRAG, we decided against the car repair assistance program because we don't want to call it crap. That'd be, although it was ironic, there was, and Mark can tell you stories of some of the vehicles that they had to determine as unrepairable. But we wanted this to be a positive vibe. And I think the maximum grant we had was $2,000, plus we allotted some funds for potential tow. It's sometimes the vehicle was stranded in their parking, or in their driveway or their parking lot, or they could get the car there, but maybe couldn't get it to the junkyard, things like that. So we were leaving some space into that. The conversation was with Kate and her team, myself and Mark, about what would be the parameters, what would be helpful, because we've done a car repair assistance program in the past with Love Inc. and some partner churches. It just became very expensive to maintain and to sustain. So, so we had a little bit of lessons learned that we were able to apply to the original write-up of the intake process and so forth. So you can see what we had as eligibility. This was for safety issues only. We weren't doing hail damage repairs or, muffler upgrades and air intake upgrades. This was just how can we get this vehicle safely running for someone. They had to be a Carver County resident, an insured driver. What I also liked about this program is every participant had skin in the game. They were putting money on the table toward this thing. It wasn't a complete, 100% grant. Not only that, if repairs exceeded the threshold of the grant, there was a bit of a dance on that, and some of it was the generosity of Christian Brothers as well as the client ponying up some more money trying to scrape it up. So scraping up $300, $400, maybe $500 is different than $2,500. Anyway, so those are some of the parameters on the car repair. So I'm part of Chanhassen Rotary, and that's how I met Mark. And Mark was telling the story of opening up this Christian Brothers Automotive. And of course, that got my wheels spinning about, what could a partnership look like, with an organization that had a similar posture and a similar value to want to serve the community. And we were talking on and off about it, but they were still launching. And anyway, the timing ended up working out great because by the time they had opened up, worked out all their kinks like a new business does, this thing came to fruition. And so it was wonderful to be able to pull the trigger on it. And it only took 7 months to burn through the 200,000, but that was a lot of processing that we did. And couple clunky spots along the way, but overall, I'm really happy with how it went from receiving someone saying that they qualify for this and then to see them through to get their car actually fixed and back on the road. Mark, do you want to speak to your guys' organization?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. If you don't know Christian Brothers Automotive, we are a national franchise. And so all of our shops are individually owned and operated. I happen to live 1.5 miles from the shop in Chanhassen, so I grew up in that community, and I'm new to the car business like most of our ownership. We've got 7 shops in the Twin Cities. We just opened number 304. We're home based in Houston. We've been around for 42 years, and we've never closed a shop. We're still building about 10 shops a year as people continue to be attracted to our values. You talk about, our guiding value of love your neighbor as yourself. Our tagline is fixing cars, driving joy, and that's really what we try to do every day. When we first enter this program and become qualified as franchisees, all we talk about is becoming a shining light in the community. And so our partnership with Love Inc. was a great one.
So here's some metrics on, I thought this was interesting. The oldest vehicle we had serviced was a 1991 Volvo. Let me guess, did it have like 300,000 miles on it? Yeah. Those things don't ever die, it seems like. The newest vehicle was a 2022 Mitsubishi or a Kia, and a Kia, which is just to say we had cars all over the place. It wasn't what you might think. 167 applicants. You can see we had 99. I think the 99th was, are we still wrapping that up? Is that? Okay. So that one's in process. You can see that 42 withdrew, expired, or put on hold while waiting for, it was similar like the question with the West Creek, why would someone withdraw, or why would someone, and there's a number of reasons. There are a number of reasons. Maybe they found something else, or their friend to work on their car, or they just never saw it through for whatever reason. We didn't always hear the why, but But there was 25 cars that were deemed beyond repairs. These are cars that Mark and his team, sized up and said, this isn't a good use of funding, which is a very difficult message to serve back to the car owner, to say, we can't really do anything for you. But when we could, we would help figure out how to dispose of the vehicle, or, get it back to them, and they could do whatever they needed to it, to sell it or whatever. The average repair cost, you can see, was $1,770. Again, this is just some math. And Christian Brothers Automotive also, they stepped up with in-kind services and sometimes discounted services or parts when they could, not used parts. That was one critique that some feedback was, hey, could we keep this cheaper by using used parts? Obviously, we're not using used parts in someone's vehicle for a program like this. But Christian Brothers also had some skin in the game with what they had done. Any questions on some of those metrics there? This is some of the survey highlights. The survey only allowed 25 responses, so there's almost 100 participants, but we could only see a portion of them. 76% that they were effective. This was curious. Half of them said that it helped them with employment access, and another half for food and other essentials, family support, health care. These are the reasons why people are, we're not just fixing cars so that they can do a Sunday drive down to Red Wing in the fall. This is for people to do life and to get to their jobs and continue to maintain some element of stability and independence. That's an interesting one too. The 96% reported a risk of high stress levels if the repairs didn't happen. The thought of not being able to make it to work on time, maybe it's yet again, is stressful, or getting a kid to their daycare. The income loss there, 76% were at risk of income loss without repairs, or losing their housing. These are the real stressors. It's not do we go to A movie or B movie or C movie. This is I don't know if I might lose my job if I don't get this $2,500 car repair figured out. So that was a lot of the tone and temp of the conversations with our clients, we call, or the recipients of the grants. And they were also all over the age demographic. I don't know if we had all of those numbers, but, and gender, and the race, color, and creed, it didn't matter. A broken down vehicle is expensive. It's expensive for anyone in this room who had decisions about this program. You get an alternator and a radiator flush, and you're like, what? No offense, Mark. It's just expensive work. But here's a couple stories. I want to invite Mark and Jenny just to reflect on a couple of these.
So
Mark,
I think
Mark, can
these-
you tell us your last name?
Sure, Menzuber.
Menzuber, I like that.
That's right.
And, your wife is Karen.
She is. Yes.
Welcome.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you. We listed 3 stories here just as examples, but they're just, again, as Al mentioned, it's all over the map. The first one is about an elderly lady who just needs her vehicle to do her grocery shopping and run her errands and just be a normal life. And I think that's a lot of what we saw. The second one is also an older woman. People, right, we all go through this. As you age, you get more nervous about lots of aspects of life. And one of them is being on the road safe. And so I think that was a very common theme from all the elderly people we saw. There's also some younger mothers, younger single mothers that we served. This is about keeping my kids safe and things like that. So I think it didn't matter what the story was, what the age of the person was. This is about being comfortable, and Al mentioned that what we focused on. We focused on safety and reliability. a lot of these vehicles needed more work in other areas. And it was really us grinding with the decision over, what is safe and reliable, right? Those are kind of vague terms, and everybody would have a different definition of those. And so it's really struggling over that and trying to make the best use of this money and leveraging it the best we could. Yeah, that's about it.
I think that client C there is an anxiety that I don't think I'll ever have out of my life. The anxiety of knowing you need a repair and maybe going to a shop that's giving you a pretty high number, and then if you turned around and went to Christian Brothers, only to find out, well, maybe it wasn't that bad, because I think that's an anxiety people have about preserving some of their money and not putting it into a car. I know one way to do that. That's just buy a brand new car, and that's expensive. And eventually that wears out. So, but I think many of us in the room probably know this anxiety of unexpected car repair and other that can just throw you out of whack, especially if you're younger. And so you're bringing back memories, I think. So we all probably have a car story. So
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that example up. I've been in this business 3 years. I, like most people, think car repair is fairly black and white. It's not. There's a lot of gray in it. You can take your vehicle to 3 different good technicians, and you might get 3 different answers. What we have is not only experienced ASE certified technicians, we also have the best technology in the industry, meaning we equip our technicians with the best diagnostic and software tools to be able to get to the root of problems and to be able to fix it properly the first time. So that's one advantage we have. Sure, there's always a gentleman down the street who works out of his garage who can do it cheaper. There's always buying used parts, and we just don't do those things. I think our commitment to this program was that once people left our shop, we had a full understanding of what their vehicle was. We decided that it was worth investing in and that it would keep them safe and reliable for at least a period of time. I'm happy to report that, and I just asked the guys this morning, we have not had one Craig recipient return to our shop after we've done repairs. So at least for now, all those vehicles that we got back on the road are up and running. But yeah, thanks. That's a great example.
No, if I could, Mr. Chair, that's wonderful. If you could go back, I think, yeah. First of all, thank you for all you do. I see you donated a lot of money, but then number 10 really caught my eye. It's 76% rated their experience with Christian Brothers as satisfied or very satisfied. That's wonderful. Commissioners never ranked that high.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for all you do.
One of the byproducts of doing a program like this is it involves a lot of other people. And even the technicians at Mark's shop were moved by the stories that came through and the opportunity to serve people. It was pretty incredible to watch them work. I got a coupon in the mail and so went to get my oil changed at Mark's shop. And whilst sitting in the waiting room, there was a client from the Craig program picking up his vehicle. He stood out from the others and was probably easy to pass judgment on some things because he stood out, because he didn't look like other people that might shop there. And Mark's staff treated that man like he was the mayor. And that man was so excited. It took him a long time to walk from the waiting room to his car, which was parked literally outside the door, because this man was north of 300 pounds. He just was very unhealthy, and I think it was like a Dodge minivan. It was just, and the way that they treated this man, he left with, dare I say, a spring in his step. And I got to witness it, and I was just there getting my oil changed. And to watch these guys treat that gentleman the way they did was, I was proud to see that. So anyway, my quote's not on there. I just decided to throw that in there. But here's some takeaways that we collected just from our own experience and observations. One, there's a clear and present need. I don't think anyone would argue that car repair has just gotten ridiculous, just like housing, just like healthcare. Everything is very expensive. The need transcends age, gender, color, and creed. We saw people from all walks of life, so to speak, and so it knows it doesn't discriminate when you need your vehicle fixed and if you're having struggles to afford it. One thing I appreciate about partnering with Mark's team is that they had a very thorough diagnostic approach and transparency with the clients about their car's needs. So not only were they able to go, hey, we've identified these key issues as safety and reliability issues, but here's another report. Here's your report you can take with you to know how to maybe plan, hey, next time you're able to, you might want to address this or that. Like, here's the sequence of a plan that you might want to take to keep your car in running order. Knowledge is power. It was just great to be able to leave that with people. There is a learning curve, but this was the case. I mean, you said it yourself, Mark. You're not in the business of fixing cars. You got into it. So when people, there's a lot of sticker shock, even for us. You walk in and you go, really? Well, it's because of this, it's because of that. So you're depending on someone's expertise, which is why you have this fear of, am I going to walk in there and they're just going to add another 60% to this thing just because they can? Because I don't know what they're talking about. It's helpful when you can have people that you trust tell you what's up and what's not. You know, don't worry about that, but you should worry about this. Those are some takeaways.
Commissioner
Whitman.
Anderson.
Yes, if I may. I just have so many comments, so bear with me. First of all, as my fellow Rotarians, it was sort of fun to see, I'm a member of Chanhassen Rotary with you all, so it was kind of fun to see this kind of take shape. But it also talks about the value of engagement and getting engaged in our community to help others. I think this presentation and the one before talk a lot about upstream and really helping people with things they need so it doesn't get worse. And when people have the upstream barrier of scarcity, whether that's scarcity of resources or scarcity of whatever it is, it creates tunnel vision, so they can't really solve problems that they need to. If you can't get to work, it's very stressful. And it's hard to think about, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to buy diapers? How am I going to do this, that, and the other thing? So I appreciate the partnership and I appreciate the work you did on this program. And Kathleen, I think you did an amazing job of sharing that story. But that's what I see Love Inc. is all about, is helping people get on their feet by removing some of those barriers they need to do that, so that we can help them, you can help them get the things they need so that they can lift and look ahead and figure out how they're going to make their next move forward. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm also grateful that we've been partners with that. And I have to give a shout out to Heather for working on this as well and creating this partnership. And I'm just honored that as a member of this board, we get to be part of that. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Uterman.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't know how vulnerable you want to be in the room, but there's some of us sitting up at this board that understand firsthand what it's like to be a single parent, right? They understand what it's like to walk in that office, might not be 300 pounds and smelly, but to get the look of you're a lesser than because you didn't come from that cast. I hope most people listening, the hardest decision today is where they're going to go on vacation or how they're going to get their steak cooked. But not everybody has that luxury. And I look at you, Al, you've been vulnerable in a lot of settings. So I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. There's some people that know what that feels like. And so I speak from experience on some of those. And I echo what Elisa's saying. You got to work upstream. Some of us have been in situations where you walk into a room and you're berated without facts, and it hurts. And you still have to navigate. You still have to turn the key to the car. You still have to pay the bills. You still have to go to the next thing. And so it hits a chord when I hear some of these things. Not from the headlines, but from the front seat. And then I asked a question: why didn't we do this earlier, or why haven't we done it? Because it's freaking hard. And we called out Bob and Dave in the last presentation. I'll call out Heather and Kai, what they're doing with Project Linkage. Almost every single time I'm at that linkage meeting, the question gets asked one way or another: where are their gaps? Where are their overlaps? And how do we fill the need? And there's always a need. And this is one of those that was so darn hairy and sticky and yucky, and nobody's been able to do it. And some of the origins were a couple years ago at an AMC meeting. I was sitting with Scott Schulte, who's one of our peers on the Anoka board. He just sold his auto repair shop in Anoka. And I said, hey, we're toiling with this. And our best answer is to ask Al Norby from Love Inc., which is completely out of his norm, to do this. And the only reason it fit in Al's pocket is because there was money and he can solve stuff, right? Auto repair didn't fit nicely in any bucket, certainly not Al's. He's got other things going on. And Scott said, the hardest thing that I have to do is if a young woman comes in and we find a crack frame, she came in with a car that she thought she could drive, and it's not fair for us to send her out on the road with a crack frame. That's a hard conversation to have because you don't know the next question and the next answer. Mm-hmm. And so I look at this and say, Love Inc. and Christian Brothers isn't the only one trying to tackle this problem. There's an element of it at the rack. They're trying to make tools available for people to repair it themselves. They're trying to make space available. Most people don't even know about it. Certainly the last thing you want to hear when you just got to get the kids out of the car and get them to daycare, you got to get them to work. The last thing you want to hear is, well, we got a fix-it clinic in 4 months. So you're addressing a need that's not being addressed in so many different ways. And I think we as a board have boldly, especially in the last handful of years, stepped into these sticky areas. And so the next question is what do we do next? Right? The budget's out. We don't have ARPA dollars to replenish it. We know that there's a heart of people like Mark and his wife and his team to get involved with this. We know Al's done an exceptional job. We can push pause. We can say, no, we're not going to do it again and lose all the momentum, or we can do something. And I'm not a guy that likes to just throw down problems without solutions, but I know if we band together all the Rotaries and all the Lions clubs and all the civic organizations across the county, and if they just contributed 2% of the revenue that comes into their pocket, we could fund this entire program. Not just one Rotary at one time, not just here's a fun $5,000. Hey, look what we all did. But we could solve this problem for the next multi-years with a commitment at that level. And so I guess I'd ask you, Al, as kind of the leader of this program, and maybe Heather as well, Kate, what are our plans for the next step?
As it relates to car repair assistance?
Yep.
I think that's our question as well. We're interested in partnering at whatever level it makes sense. And this isn't easy. It is hard. If it was easy, why don't they have this in every county? Mm-hmm. I mean, no one's really doing it. We tracked down a couple of models that we were kind of looking at that are kind of community based or whatever. It's beyond like a private business. There's a lot of moving parts. Mm-hmm. And so.
And if I may, Board Chair, Commissioners, so as you probably were in a larger scale, board working really close with the community to address transportation as a whole, with investments into public transport expansion, Southwest Transit, SmartLink. So I am actually leading the transportation work group as a result of our health care plan assessment. So that would be something I think as a part of our overall transportation load that we also will be working and assessing, how do we approach transportation solution as a whole, and I would be, I'll work with Al to see if he's interested to join the group, or if we could just continue to stay in touch, because that's only one piece of overall kind of transportation solution that we're looking at. Some of our workforce programs currently have support services available for people to, specifically for car repair as it relates to helping people get to work. So I just want to add that point too as well.
Well, if we can get a little tactical, because I know we can have a lot of meetings, but if we did an annual budget for something like this, is $300,000 a budget that you can work with? Is that too much, not enough? And then if we start whittling away, can the county put up some dollars to match against, Mark, your generous contributions on behalf of your staff? And of course, it's built on trust, because anybody that looks at it's like, well, he's still making money. Of course, he's got to keep the lights on, right? This is a piece of, there's a lot of pieces of it, but could we reach out to our community if they find value in this? What do you think a good annual budget for us to think about
I mean, we just did a program with 200,000 and we served 100 people. Just at face value, that feels overwhelming, right? Just with the sheer scope of it. But if we had 200 plus another 200, say from various sources, it would be $500,000. We burned through it in 7 months, and it's not like they were the only customers coming through. He had a regular business and was able to fit all that in very timely, manner. So, and as far as us doing the vetting, that's what we do. We're getting better at it. We're working on efficiency, challenges and so forth, because we've got 15 different gap ministries that we're setting in motion when people call in for help. And this was part of that. But we are interested in bringing that asset to the community of that vetting and that caring for people, navigating them to, okay, you're calling about this, let's see this, happen. But it seemed to me like $500,000 at least. I haven't thought about an annual budget for that, so I'm just throwing that out to 7 months, 200 times 2, just thinking 400,000 to 500,000 to do, in theory, a couple hundred clients.
It's not lost on me that we've got budget headwinds, and this is a discretionary space, but I think that it'd be fruitful maybe in the next 30 days to put together a budget and what it might look like.
Sorry. I want to believe that there are some other businesses in this county that if they caught wind of something, that they would perhaps be, would want to contribute to that. Some key partners, I don't have that list in my head. I'm just assuming with who we are here at Carver County, we could probably find some.
Yep. And I'd imagine that there's grant funds available somewhere. Maybe we don't qualify for them, but if we put together a budget for where the streams might look like and make it workable, I'd be in support of looking at what that looks like in 30 days to see if we want to continue a program. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Chair, Commissioners. So, yes, we will look, like I said, I think we'll look on that, and we'll look on a broader piece as a transportation part as well. So thank you. Any other,
Kate Probert,
Mr. Chair?
thank you. I've been involved in transportation and transit for a long time. I know what transit that is too expensive looks like. I think the legislature's trying to address some of that. But mobility, that including this into the broader mobility picture for employment or other, is a great idea. That's why I have just always been closely, promoting Southwest Transit for what they do. They're the creative future, not big old unwieldy transit and expensive transit. And so plugging this into the larger picture, I think, is a great idea. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, County Administrator, County Attorneys, for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do believe, unless somebody has anything more to say, I think we've reached the end of our meeting. Thank you. Now we can talk about banana.
Come up with that,
I don't think so.
Yeah, Lisa.